Jasmine Johnson, thank you so much for being a part of Black Girl Recovering. I thank you for saying yes. And I know as you said yes to me, but I think you were more so saying yes to God. And so I appreciate you for being a part of this because part of my goal and of why I'm doing this series is while, yes, I'm trying to inform and educate the community about the excellence that's in our community, I'm also trying to connect community with its own community. And you just happen to be a part of our community. And I want more people to know who you are and what you bring. And so I'm excited that you said yes. And so as we sit here and get ready to get started, I want folks to know that a little bit of who you are. You are the CEO of the Way Solution Group, and you're also the founder of Imprints by Jazz Counseling Services. Could you tell us a little bit about how your personal journey actually has led you to this place in time of where you are the CEO and you have founded this counseling service? What led you here?
I would say I have always had a passion for helping people. It was when I was a kid that I began to notice that I had a listening ear. But as a kid, you're limited in how much you can actually give to people, especially with older people that will begin to draw to me. And I said, I don't like this limitation. And so it was in those moments that I began to start realizing, I think I want to go into counseling, and I believe that I can make a greater impact. But I would really say that when I gave God my full yes, and I agreed to show up as the full Jasmine, that things begin to start shaking and shaping. But sometimes it takes a whole shakedown in order to be built back up. And I went through something like that, right? I went through some very pivotal times. Everyone went through a pivotal shakedown, and that was during COVID, right? During COVID,
Mhm.
everyone had to experience, like, wait, what's going on? I need to regroup. Like, what does this look like? And so for me, it was a very pivotal time that my businesses was birthed, but I went through a divorce right before a separation, right before the pandemic, and it was like everything just started shaking, and it was like, oh, this is what we're doing. And
Yeah.
so during this time, I had already knew that I have always wanted to do my own private practice, but I always said that the way you treat other people's things is going to be very key in how someone will treat your own, or even how you're practicing for your own. And so I never took it lightly when I worked for other people. I gave my best, and it was like, okay, well, now it's time to take it a step further. And so that's what happened. I took it a step further, and I stepped out on faith. I listened to the Lord. The Lord was like, this is the time. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's the middle of a pandemic. And he was like, well, why not now? Because there's
Mm.
such a high demand. Why not now? This is the greatest time to make the transition. And so that's what I did. I made the transition, and it was literally stepping out on faith, believing God and what he said. One of the biggest things is that I wanted to bring God into the atmosphere. And sometimes when you're working for other people, you can't necessarily do that because that may not be their beliefs, and you have to respect that, right? But I
Mhm.
can't negate of who I am. It's, sometimes the light is just going to shine no matter what. But I knew that if I had my own, I could create the space where faith could be integrated. And that was one of the main things that I wanted to do.
Mm. Can you tell me about the name Imprints by Jazz?
So, imprints by Jazz, everybody in their life experiences a type of imprint in their life. And that's really when a hard surface has pushed up against the softness of your life. We are framed, right, by the very words that we speak. It says that death and life is in the power of our tongue, but sometimes those words can be hard and harsh. And so, with that, sometimes it leaves an imprint. And so a lot of times we have to figure out what stage of this imprint am I in. And is it still on me? Is this these words still on me? Are they blocking my view that I can't really see the wholeness of who I'm supposed to be? Or are these things kind of like so deep and embedded that it's like a hole, right? And so just really navigating through it. But we all experience a type of imprint. The question is more so, what are we doing with the imprint that's been placed upon us, right? And it could be a
Yes.
bleeding one. It could be one that is a scar, right? That shows my resilience and what I've overcome. My job is to be able to help people change and shift their perspective so that they don't see it as something that they are, but something that has happened that is a part of their life, but is not who they are. So re-identifying and shaping the perception, right? So that it's one of wholeness and not one of a victim mentality, but that you are a victor, right? It's a battle scar, and let's go with it. Like, it doesn't have to hold you back, then, but it can thrust you forward. And so shifting the minds of the people so that it can be renewed, so that they can be their best whole self.
Ooh, that's a powerful name. That's powerful right there. Wow. And as you were talking, I started thinking about what you said earlier about those pivotal times that we've all kind of gone through, and you shared just a little bit, a snippet of a pivotal time of what you've gone through in life. Um, Talk about ministry. How did your journey into ministry? How did it start? I'm someone I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up a Christian. And so where did your relationship with God start?
I would say it started as a teenager. As I said, there were people around me. It would be peers, it would be adults that I would see going through very hard situations. And I'll never forget, it was a friend that I had been sexually abused by her stepfather, and her family did not believe her. And the disheartening, and it caused her to have suicidal ideations. But she came to me, and it was in those moments that I just began to just love on her, right? And I began to see what love really does. And so the love that the Father gave me, He gave it to me to recreate so that I could show other people that same love. And so it really just came from a love and a passion to see people healed, to see people whole. But at the same time, with counseling, it was like such a broad scope, right? Like, I started with families in crisis. I tried out so many different things, but it wasn't until I experienced my own affliction, right? I love the scripture, Psalms 119:71. It would say, Paul says, it was good that I was afflicted, that I may know the statutes of God. I've always known God, but it's so many aspects of God, right? And it's like, okay, I want to show you a different aspect. And so it was in my affliction. It was a week before I was supposed to go and get a trauma certification that I experienced my own trauma. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what is going on? And not to mention that 3 weeks later, here comes the pandemic. The whole world is experiencing trauma. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Mm.
What's going on? We need to take inventory, like, God, what's going on? And God says, I just need you to trust me.
Yeah.
Lean not into your own understanding, but in all your ways, acknowledge me, your need for me, your desire for me. And it was in those moments that I began to go deeper with God. And it was like,
Mhm.
I can't live without you. I don't want to move without you. I didn't try it by myself, but I'm so far out here. Like, I ain't got no choice. This is so foreign of a territory. Like, I need some assistance. And so I can't do this without you. I'm out here. So I need you to help me. And it was in those moments that I realized that trauma chose me. I didn't choose trauma, but this thing chose me. One, because I believe that God needed someone that was going to be able to understand, see, feel, walk through the trenches. And you ain't just
Mhm.
telling me something professionally, but no, because you walked it out, you lived it out, and you know it to be true. And so that's one thing that I think that I can bring to my clients, to my audience, wherever, right? Is that I've tried it. And it's because I was afflicted. If I wasn't shook up the way that it was, I wouldn't took
Mhm.
a good look at myself, right? And it was in those times that I had to go back and I had to look at the deep rooted roots, right? That needed to come up, the lies that I was believing that got me
Yeah.
to the place. Because sometimes things just don't happen for no reason. It happened because I had to look at what were the things that I were believing that
Yeah.
caused me to walk this path. And in that moment, if I wouldn't shook up like that, I wouldn't have looked.
Mm.
But
Mm.
because of the shakeup, I
Because of
looked.
the shakeup.
Because of the shakeup, it broke up the foul ground and all the roots were able to come out.
Yeah.
and God placed it with His truth.
Mm, mm, mm. Can we go there for just a minute? Talk about that shakeup, and you were talking about those roots. I need folks to know and normalize this experience because uh, getting rid of those roots, getting to the roots is work,
It is.
and it's not going to happen overnight.
It's not, but that's because we're so focused on branches. A lot of times I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, we focus on branches, but the thing about a branch is if you cut it off, you prune it, guess what? Another one grows back, right?
Yeah,
And branches are more so like the behaviors in which we are conditioned. And so a lot of times you're like, I'm working out and I need to get myself back together, I'm overweight. And so we think that if I work out, then things will get better. But then you find yourself falling off and it happens. It's just a cycle, right? It grows back.
yeah,
You're like, I can't get off of this thing. But if I begin to go back to what is it that I'm telling myself, the roots have to go with what is the language that I'm speaking to myself? What is the dialogue? What is my mindset? If I can get to the root of that, and I always say you start by the problem. If you look at
mhm,
the problem, the problems will lead you to the lie because lies are not easily detected. Why? Because we're believing them to be true. The only
yeah,
way you know that a lie is till the truth comes up against it. So if I keep seeing these problems, this is a truth. Like
yeah,
this is a problem, and I keep seeing the same thing. It ain't this relationship, that relationship. The common denominator is me, right? And so
mhm,
that's a problem. And so what is it about me? What is it that I'm starting to see? And whenever you start doing that, you start going to the root because you'll start understanding what have I been believing. Did I put that in myself? Did other people
mhm,
condition me to believe these things? And so when you do that, it takes work because you're unraveling and you're rewiring the very fabric of your brain. You've been doing this
mm,
for how long? Maybe you've been doing this since childhood, or maybe you've been doing it since adolescence. And so, because of the repetition that it took to get here and how long you've been believing it, you can't think that it's going to happen overnight. That if it took you this long to get here, how long do you think it's going to take you to backtrack? But when you're consistent and
yeah,
when you're intentional, guess what? It does speed up the process. When you're intentional, you're honest with yourself, you're vulnerable with yourself. It's in those moments that you begin to accelerate the pace that could take a little bit longer. But
mm,
it does take work. Healing is a work in process. And everybody has to know I got to be honest, and it may be painful. It may get ugly. It may even get worse before it get better. But I
yeah,
know the other side is healing. I know the other side is victory. I know the other side is recovery. I know that I will recover all because it's a
mhm,
promise. God says that the
mhm,
thoughts that I think towards you are a hope and a future. Thinking is a process. It's just the beginning seed of a thing. It
mm.
starts as a thought, then it becomes our feelings, and then we begin to act on the things that we feel and we think towards.
Yes, yes, and yes. Thank you for that bit of encouragement because sometimes we can get so caught up in the hardness of it, and that sometimes can make it prolong it further because I don't like this pain, so we retreat from the pain
Right.
and disrupt what God is trying to do with us. So thank you for normalizing the experience that it's going to be. It may be painful.
It may be, but we cannot anticipate the time period. And that's the other part. So we're trying to already know the end before it has already begun, which is an imagination, right? Okay. And the Bible says cast down vain imaginations. But just start. I always say if you just start, you can
Hmm.
build on a place that you start. And in that, who knows how long it may take, but everybody's story and everybody's timeline is unique
Hmm.
to that individual.
That's good. Well, can you share with me how has your experience as a Black woman informed the way you approach mental health and mental wellness? Um, and I say Black woman because the cultural kind of um, dynamics around mental health. I don't know what it was like for you, but I know for me, growing up, we did not talk about mental health. So, talk to us about how, as a Black woman, it has, informed how you approach mental health and mental wellness.
So one of the main things that I would say is that most people depict or they think of a black woman, they think of a black strong woman. And one of the things that I had to overcome is breaking down what an independent, strong woman look like. Who created this depiction for me? And what is really strong? Most people will tell you that strong is a person that keeps it together, don't show any emotions,
Mhm.
and most of the time um they your go-to, right? They're the go-to,
Mhm.
right? But I always say strong people need people too. Nobody is negated from strong. And who told us that independence will keep you in isolation? Because it's a standalone. Who I don't want to be standing alone. Because at the end of the day, we need community. So I always say you want an interdependent person, right? I don't need nobody looking over my shoulder because I can be a self
Mhm.
starter, but I'm not negated to receive help because help helps me go longer. I can
Yeah.
have longevity when I have community. And so we have to get out of this mindset of independence versus interdependence because independence keeps me by myself and I'm limited. I can't go
Yeah.
no further. I'm only as good as myself. And if I ain't no good, then what we gonna do? But if I'm interdependent, I can go, and when I need some help, I can go a little further. I get
Yeah.
boosts. It's like my power boost, right? I go to my community, I get my power boost. So that's one. The other one is a strong woman's mentality. And I always said,
Mm.
as a black woman and as a black mother, right? I want my children to have an example of what healthy expression and communication and of emotions is. And if they don't see me in a broken state, when they're broken, how will they know what to do if I'm setting the example?
Woo.
Because if they say my mama don't go through nothing, so there ain't no way I can go to her and tell her this. Because if I go to her,
Yes.
she gonna think as me like I'm frail, I'm weak. No, but if I show them I had a weak moment, it also allows my children to learn what it's like to come for, to be there, to be assistance, right? I can actually be there for my mom, or
Mm.
I can actually be there. Like there's a such thing as help, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what it does is create a cycle of assistance and help and support and bond and community, unity. And look at that. That something is happening and being cultivated in our in our family systems, which will bring us together, right?
Yeah.
And a family together is strong. And so I always say, you want to be the example. And if they can't see it in you, then how will they know that they can come to you?
Woo. You had me wanting to jump up and shout for real. That is so that's the realness that we need to hear because society gives us the stereotypes, gives us this message in almost every movie that you see, and you see a black woman, she's the type, right? As opposed to being the rich human that we are, that we were created to be. Whew, thank you for that,
Yeah.
because I'm on a mission to help women, black women, to understand that we're more than just that.
We
You
are.
know, we have feelings, and we have hurts, and we have so much more to us than what the stereotype says about us. So oh, I
Right.
was about to
Then it gives you permission to be the fullness. Because if
yeah.
you are focused on only thing, you're carrying a whole bunch of weight, which leaves no room for you really to be who you were created to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, faith, very important to you. And I hear that you are a fabulous singer. So one of these days you're going to bless us. I know. Uh, that is also like your place that you go to for you know serenity. I call it serenity.
Mhm,
Um, you like the outdoors, nature,
mhm.
but your family.
Yes.
Talk to me about how you balance, and I hate to use balance because what is balance, but how do you balance all your roles as a mom, as a leader, as a professional? Talk to us. How do you balance it all?
Right. I always say God doesn't give you more than you can bear. And when I say that, sometimes we bear more and he'll stretch our capacity and we didn't know we had room, right? And sometimes it's character building. And I always said that I used to, as a kid, I did too many things, is what I would say, right? And I was like, I used to envy the people that had that one skill because they could just hone in on it and they could like be the master at that thing. And it was like, I felt like I was so many different places, an athlete, music, sports, academia, all these things. And I'm like, wait, I wish I could. But then I realized that for me, balance is not necessarily a weight scale for me.
Mm,
Balance for me is a plate, right? And it's how much can I put on the plate.
yeah.
Everybody, and it really just depends on what season of the life that you're in. Maybe I have a small portion of meat, right? Vegetables, greens, like those type of things, they represent the different things. And so I have to have boundaries. Boundaries are essential for me to be able to maximize my capacity.
Can you say that again?
Boundaries are essential so that I can maximize my capacity. And I've also learned that delegation is going to help me as well. I
Mm,
don't have to be the one to do it all. So many times, as mothers, as women, we say, I can do it better. I know I can do it better. And you probably can. But if you could coach somebody, you built somebody that can last longer. And guess what? You just built legacy because you just trained somebody else for them to carry on a baton that you necessarily that lifted up a weight for you, right? And so
mhm.
delegation is very important to be able to do that. And it's okay to say no.
And it's
It's okay
okay to
even
say
if you
no.
have the ability to do certain things. You have to know what season you are in because maybe this is a season. There was a season where I had to stop singing because there were
Yeah.
certain things that I needed to do regarding my household. And I'm okay with saying no, even though other people are saying, but you're great at this. This is, I understand that. And just because I am good at something doesn't mean that this is a now season. I have to know what my priority is. And my household is my priority. I am a divorced mom, meaning that everything is on me right now. And my children come first. And so I got to
Yeah.
make sure that everything is okay. And then we'll see where the things go, right? And
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
okay that if this is not the season, it doesn't mean that it won't come around again. What is for me is for me, and knowing your season, knowing to say no, and it's okay. And if they get mad and they say, I don't want to do this no more, you wasn't the people for me, and this wasn't it. And I'm okay with that.
That's it. That's good. That's good right there. Okay, I'm gonna shift it a little bit, and I want to talk to the CEO. As the CEO, what advice would you give to women of color who's aspiring to lead their own business or an organization? What advice would you give?
I would say that trust is one of the things that you're going to have to strengthen. You're going to have to strengthen trust because you're going to have to trust people, right?
Hmm.
I would also say that you need the Holy Spirit so that you can discern and call forth the things that you need, right? And you have to have a vision. Like, what does that vision look like? And I truly believe that once you write the vision, literally, I believe that when we write something, I've always said that this, I heard this somewhere. I can't even, I wish I could give credit, but it ain't mine, but I just want to say it. But
Hmm.
someone gave me this illustration that the mind is the central location of heaven into earth because
Mm,
the Bible says that God says that the thoughts that I think towards you, a lot of times we think that God is going, we're asking God for to do something, but it'll come in the form of a thought. Everything
yeah.
comes in the form of a thought. And if this is a central location, if you really think about it, a thought is invisible. It's another realm, right? And it goes from thought and it becomes into action. As
Mm,
we think, we feel, we do. And
yes.
it's like the central place. And so as you begin to write the vision, it's been given to you in your mind. As you write it, it begins to become manifested here in the earth. It's a way that we begin to create movement here in the earth. It says that our worlds were framed by the very words we speak. And I believe the very words that we write is where, so it's power in that. And I think you give life to it. And so as a CEO, you need to write the vision. Nobody
Right.
can move with it without it. And make sure that you have a clear vision. And when you have a
Mhm.
clear vision, then people can know, hey, I want to be a part of that. How that seems like something, right? But if you don't have it and it's just in your head, then can't nobody get with you, right?
Yeah.
But trusting people and then also knowing balance and boundaries. I think that's going to be very essential, right? Um, in moving forward and knowing how to interact with the people, right? But also the boundaries also help in that trusting too, right? And so I would say that that would be the greatest thing. And you gotta be a risk taker, meaning I equate risk taking to living by faith, right? It's the thing that I can't see, but I believe for. You can't do
Mhm.
anything in entrepreneurship without faith because there's gonna be moments that it don't look right. But you like, I saw this vision and I know it's gotta come to pass, but I just need the strategy. Show me the strategy that I can implement. But it's gonna
Mm.
take faith in order to do it.
I like that trust. And you said trust other people. And in my head, I was thinking, and also trust yourself,
That part.
right? So, okay, so looking back at your career and your own personal growth, what piece of advice or what piece of wisdom or lesson have you learned that you would like to share with others? So, say, man, this is what I learned.
That it's okay to be yourself,
Mm.
to show up as your authentic self. Don't be a copycat. When you are copying somebody else, it's a slap in the face to God, as if He's
Yeah.
not unique and great and um, creative enough that He needs to make another one. No, He has purpose for you. There's people assigned to you that are only designated for you, and so showing up as your authentic self. I did this article for Bold magazine, and they asked
Yeah.
me. I talked about imposter syndromes, and one of the biggest things that I used to get as a kid is that people would always tell me I was doing too much. Like
Mm.
I was doing too much. Like you're extra. Like it's just too much, right? And it would cause me to shrink down. Like I
Mhm.
would dumb myself down. I would not sing so great, or I would not answer all the questions, or I just would shrink myself down and not show up like the Jasmine that I am. And
Yes.
so one day, this person, I don't even remember who it was, they posed this question to me and they said, what if the people are not doing enough? And that has intimidated them. And I said, you know what? I think you're right. I've had people like, you be going everywhere. You be doing a whole bunch, girl. Child, you need to sit down. I said, sit down and die. Or do
Mm.
I need to get up and do something so that other people can know that you can live and that you shall not die? And so that helped me. And so when
Yeah.
I began to start showing up as the full person, bold, bright, whoever I'm supposed to be,
Yes.
whatever God has called me to be, I gave other people the permission to show up and be themselves too. And that's what I'm created to do. A fire starter. A fire starter means, guess what? It ain't no fire. It looked dead. So I got to be the one to jolt life and to help somebody else. I know who I am. I'm a trailblazer. So that means there's
Yes.
a path in front of me that was never set before. So I have
Mhm.
to be the one that has to bulldoze through it.
Mm.
And it means sometimes I have to be by myself in order to do that. And I
Yeah.
have to be okay with being the only one, standing out, being authentically me, and knowing that I'm doing it not just for me, but for the people that are coming behind me, that it was bigger
Yes.
than me. And somebody has to do it.
Hmm.
Why not me?
Why not? Whew. Jasmine, what's next for Jasmine Johnson? What's next?
So I would say it's to help create even more advocacy, right? To produce more people and drawing the passion, right? My passion is faith and mental health. Those are two things, right? Yes, I love ministry. Everything that I do is ministry. Like when I
Yeah.
walk out the door, it's ministry. I ask God to lead me. And so that, right? But one of the biggest things is I like to find where are the biggest problems within mental health. One of the things that the Way Solutions Group is working on is creating an apprenticeship program. And with this
Mhm.
apprenticeship program, what we want to do is be able to get graduate students that are coming out, be able to equip them with the things that I didn't get that probably could have helped me, but equipping them so that they can be able to do private practice, so that they can be able to begin to get in the community, showing them what advocacy looks like. Because when you first getting started, you just take whatever job you can get. But what if
Yes.
we empowered you? What if we showed you things that you can be into create more of people like you, right? But
Mhm.
creating places where there's supervision within the faith organizations and be able to bridge that gap, right? Creating places where there's a need, faith-based organizations, they need more people. Well, why wouldn't we not use graduate students to be able to fill those places, right? And so being
Yeah.
able to create, that's one of them. Another one is a peer-to-peer, like a peer, where anybody, you don't necessarily have to have a graduate level degree, but anybody that has a passion for mental health or just want to help people, creating an apprenticeship for them as well, so that when they come out, that they can have the credentials and that they can hit the ground running. They're equipped, they're educated, they're trained, but so that they can do even more. And what I see the biggest thing in our BIPOC communities is that there's not enough providers, there's not enough people educated that can be able to speak the language
Mhm.
and that are trusted voices. So that's why I'm like, it's very essential to partner with trusted voices. Most people,
Mhm.
faith organizations and faith communities are a voice that they recognize, a voice that they trust, that they go to. Why not collaborate with them, right? So
Mhm.
that together we can make impact. Together we can do more. We can go longer. We can last longer. And we can create a whole community, not just a healed one, but a whole one. God says, I wish above all that you would prosper, even as your soul, your mind,
Mm.
your will, your intellect would
Yeah.
prosper. And everything starts in our mind. 75 to 95% of physical ailments within our body start in the mind. Only 5 to
Mhm.
25 is genetic or environmental. And I just want to be able to help renew the minds of the people so that they can prosper, but also so that they can dispel and break these generational curses, these lies, create healthy communication skills, expression of how we feel, creating boundaries, creating healthy families, which creates healthy communities, which creates a healthy world.
Mm. Well, y'all heard it here. I know people are going to be blessed by this program. How can people, if there's an interest in being a part of that, what can people do?
They can go to thewaysolutionsgroup.com and you can go to our contact information. Another thing that we do at the Way Solutions Group is that we help faith-based organizations to create that sustainable income by helping them to become billable so that they can create those behavioral health centers in their actual entity. And so we're here to be able to help a solution, right? We don't want the burden to be on these faith-based organizations or nonprofits, but we want to be able to utilize the tools that are already here that other people are using. Why can we not use them ourselves? And so you can go to our website. You can also follow us on IG as well as LinkedIn. And then you can follow me on Facebook or IG as Jasmine underscore Joy 810. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to inform the people. That's where we are.
All right. And I'll make sure that all the contact information is going to be in the description. Um, Jasmine, thank you so much for being a part of this series with me because leaders in the field, and I want the community to know who the leaders in the field are. So thank you so much for showing us how faith and professional life can actually be intertwined.
Thank you for the work that you do I'm excited for your own story and the lives and the legacy that you're leaving, because when you create things like this is legacy building, because you impacting one woman's life changes a lot, because her family's impacted, her friends are impacted, her community is impacted. So just one. God says, I'll leave the 99 for the one. And in you chasing the one, just think about the draw that's going to happen and the impact that'll happen just for that one. So keep going. I'm so proud of you, and I'm glad that you allowed me to be a part.
Thank you so much.